welcome to Open to Connect. And today, I got to echo for a second there. Anyway, I have Chenae Erkerd here, or recruiter cousin, and I am thrilled, so excited to have you because you have such insights on the job market and hiring and what that looks like as a recruiter. And we met through, it was like on LinkedIn, there's a sharing of a post with one person where you saw it, and then we ended up in the same mentorship call, and here we are. So today we just wanted to talk about current job market and layoffs and who's getting traction and what are they doing and what can you do to incorporate any of these practices into professional networking, especially if you've been laid off or experiencing just anxiety about layoffs. I remember before I was laid off, I had a lot of just regular burnout and anxiety because they were always looming. So would you love to just introduce yourself, talk a little bit more about what you do and how you ended up, where you ended up, any part of your story you want to share?
Yeah, it's interesting when people ask me to introduce myself, I never know what to say. I never know how to talk about myself. I was telling my husband this yesterday that I was completing something for a biography, and I was like, what have I accomplished? What have I done? What do I say? I don't even know where to start. So all of that said, my name is Chenae Erkerd. I am a recruiter, pivoter from the legal field. So I have a degree from North Carolina Central University School of Law. Before that, I went to St. Augustine's University, majored in political science, minored in English, became a member of the best sorority in the world, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. Then went on to law school, matriculated and graduated from law school, took the North Carolina bar 3 different times. I did not pass. I was signed up the 4th time, and I realized I did not want to give North Carolina any more of my money. So I had to ask myself, what was it that was more important to me? Was it that I became a licensed attorney, or was it that I proved to myself that I was smart enough to graduate law school? When I realized it was the latter, I was like, you really don't want to be an attorney. You got your law degree and you're good. And so when I came to that decision inside myself, I withdrew from taking the bar the 4th time because I was signed up. So I withdrew from taking the bar, pivoted into HR, specifically recruiting. And I have been advocating outside of the courtroom, but for candidates ever since. So I built Recruiter Cousin when I started in recruiting in healthcare because I wanted to have fun with it. I'm a creative. I'm a spoken word artist and motivational speaker by passion and by gift. And so I wanted to have fun with recruiting, and doing that was building a brand and becoming relatable and pretty much saying the things that I did not see recruiters saying or people are scared to say. I would say stuff like, I'm a Black woman with natural hair. I'm from Camden, New Jersey, which is a Black neighborhood. I went to 2 Black schools. I'm a part of a Black sorority, and I'm able to be myself, and I'm able to be successful, right? And I don't think any of us who are ourselves, whatever that definition is, we shouldn't be ashamed to be ourselves. And so built Recruiter Cousin. I didn't anticipate it being what it became. I just knew I wanted to help people and be relatable and wanted to serve. And so, I had a promise to myself. I wanted to make sure I did not forget what it felt like to be a candidate. So I made that promise to myself and to God, and I wanted to keep that. So if anything, I was scared to break that promise to God. So that's me. That is literally who I am.
I adore that. I remember when I overcame that really huge employment gap. So I remember when I finally landed a thing, like, I'm never going to let the employment gap be an issue again. And it inspired me to want to learn how to connect with people, learn how to put myself out there and do things even like this. I never dreamed it would end up here the day that I first posted on LinkedIn, but here we are, just growing all along. And I also love that you're a voice of faith, and we have that in common. So I love always hearing your perspective.
It keeps me grounded, I'll tell you. Yeah.
we need it. We need it. So, so I am kind of curious what you're seeing in the job market today. From the mentorship calls that we've been on together that I do weekly, it seems like more and more people are joining it and struggling. So I'd love to hear if you're seeing any optimism, or is it still still a struggle.
Yeah, I think it's still a struggle. But I think it's a struggle depending on the profession and depending on the person, right? So I am a proponent and an advocate for you cannot start networking when you need help. Like you need to be networking while you're comfortable, while you have a job, while you're not in desperation. When you get into desperation, your urgency is different, right? And so and when your urgency is different, everything else from that will magnify. So it what will look like what could have been an easier process, easier, not easy, easier process turned into something much more difficult because a lot of people wait to the last minute to start networking. And so I always tell people, if you're going to need a job, if you want to get to the next step, don't wait until you're about to be laid off. Don't contact me when you got a week out. Like I think my employment is about to be terminated. Like don't do it then, because then you're going to have a hard time with trying to turn it around in such a short amount of time. And so I tell people to make sure that when you are comfortable and you don't need help, make sure you're passing the baton and giving back to the community. So when it's your turn, your community can help you.
Yeah, I've seen that so many times with people who are givers, and then when they're laid off or a circumstance changes and they need to pivot somewhere else, then I've seen just the outpouring of what can I do for you? What can I do for you? And it's also, it feels good when you're in the middle of, that's why I started the mentorship call that I was doing, is because I was just in the pits during the pandemic. And I'm like, I'm not helping anybody. My volunteer stuff's gone. I don't even know what to do anymore. So, but that giving back or helping another person.
But the thing
strong
is, though,
advocate for mental health on that.
Yeah, very much. I couple that though with understanding that when you get your breakthrough, when you get your job, you're trying to concentrate on doing well. You're trying to concentrate on making impact and doing well in your performance, and so you can get your bonuses and your promotions. And I completely understand all of that. It's when though you hit this pinnacle or a point, a climax, if you will, if in your process, where people forget like they used to be a candidate. And so I find it odd when people reach out to me and they say, well, the recruiter isn't responding. Odd, but at the same time, I get it. So for those of you who are reaching out to recruiters, we are busy as crap. Like, I can't tell y'all how many messages I get. So if I get a lot of messages, you can imagine how many recruiters just around the world get a whole bunch of messages, right? But then the question then becomes, well, Chenae, if y'all are busy and y'all are not answering, how am I supposed to get a job? You're right. There are times where we have to know how to balance between networking with all of you and still being able to fill the roles. The problem, though, with that is when we answer, we all of a sudden become your personal recruiter. And that's not our job. Our job, depending on the type of recruiter we are, is to fill the role for the company. It's if you then become our official candidate, it's also to give you a great candidate experience, along with giving the hiring managers a good hiring manager experience. But I think I understand both sides. I understand the recruiter who is extremely, when I say extremely busy, but then the candidate who is frustrated and who needs the recruiter to answer and to have a conversation. So I get both sides. And I think there should be a meeting of the minds on both sides of understanding that both parties are busy. Both parties are just trying to serve, but one has a need that's maybe more urgent than the other.
Is there anything you see that's helping candidates stand out from the big pile of resumes that are coming in?
Yeah. So specifically with LinkedIn or even Instagram, right? I'm on my Instagram live on my phone. To my right, it looks like your left, but to my right, I will say for LinkedIn and Instagram, the people who comment on my post the most, I'm a spoken word artist. Y'all heard that rhyme just now. The people who comment on my post frequently are the people who, when they send me a DM, I drop everything. The people who send me messages, there are times where I just don't see it. But then there are times when if I see the same people in my DM or the same people who are commenting on my content, if anything, I kind of feel like at a certain point I've known y'all. So I would feel weird if I didn't respond. So for me, part of it is that it's the consistency of seeing how you show up and seeing what you do, right? And that how you show up is a simple like, a simple repost, a simple congrats or good job or something like that. That's a virtual thing. For in person, it would be the people who I see at different events all the time. Now, I'm always going to couple what I say with an understanding point. And the understanding point is there are many people on the job market who can't afford to go to some of the events that I go to all the time. There are, though, many free events that I go to that I see the same people all the time. And so, like, I'm going to call out, his name is Chris Tazewell. Chris and his brother Jordan are people who I've never met Jordan in person, but I see Chris all the time. If Chris or Jordan needed something, it's a no-brainer because I see the work ethic. I see the networking. I see them working on their behalf. And for me, that is what helps you stand out. It's when you don't come with Chenae, I see you're a recruiter. Can you find me a job? No, I can't. No. Chenae, I see you're a recruiter. Can you keep me in mind? Here's the thing. I would love to keep y'all in mind. Can you imagine how many people ask me to keep them in mind and how many times I'm not going to remember? It's literally people who come to me with a tangible thing, a tangible something that I can work with versus, Chenae, can you find me a job? And then I go, here's my calendar. Well, I can't afford that right now. So you expect me to do this work for free? You know how much time that takes? Like it's the respect factor. It's the consistency. It's understanding. It's also now this is how my personal opinion of how people stand out. It's also if I'm able to have a candid conversation with you, like if I can actually say, Jacqueline, I see you've been doing this, and this to get a job, right? But you're missing these parts. If you take that and you receive it, I understand that you may be open to your next opportunity. You may be ready for it. If you get offended, like, I don't know what to tell you, because there are times when people in the boardroom and in the conference room, they're going to say some stuff to y'all that you're not going to like. And I'm like, if y'all get offended now, I can imagine how y'all gonna get offended when y'all get in your job. So there are a couple components of how people stand out to me, and part of that, as simple as I can say it, is being prepared.
Yeah, you absolutely affirmed my number one thing that I tell people to network, which is to interact on people's posts and don't let people forget you exist. So that you are top of mind if they see something that's there. Yeah. We did have a question from YouTube actually, is asking how are people using Instagram and job searches, or is it people responding to what you're posting on Instagram that's getting the attention?
Yeah, so it's actually when people send me a DM, because I get a lot of DMs mostly on LinkedIn, but when I do get them on Instagram, it's, hey, Chenae, I've been seeing what you're doing. I love it. I'm having a hard time. I'm looking for a job. I'm not really sure of what direction to go into. Do you mind pointing me in the direction of some resources? I check both my inbox and my request folder all the time. And so that's how people are standing out to me on Instagram. They're not necessarily job seeking on Instagram like a LinkedIn or any other job board, but it's more of you being vulnerable enough to ask for help and ask your questions. Now, there are many of my reels that I'll post on my Instagram that'll answer your questions. But there are also times when I understand you may not catch it, and that's okay. And so sometimes it could be as simple as, hey, I was looking for you on LinkedIn, and I understand that you have some templates, or I was looking for you on LinkedIn and I saw that you posted something, but somebody told me you posted something that would help me, but I can't find it. If you at least tell me you tried, that's how you stand out for me. It's normally the people who Chenae, can you look at my resume and tell me what you think? No, I can't because if I, and it's not that I don't want to,
Right.
it's just, I like, you know how many 134,000 people asking me the same thing about, I don't have time to do that. And I would love to, I just don't have the time to.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me once, because I was just saying, you know, once I joined Microsoft, I got the same thing all the times. Can you find a job for me? And I was asking someone, how do you handle this? And they're like, look, if they can't do the job search on their own, they're not going to be successful in some of the roles that they're trying to get. And then I chuckled because at the end of the day, sometimes I'm like, what do I want to do for my next career move? And am looking at my own skill sets and job listings. And I'm like, maybe that works, maybe that doesn't. So I have to kind of laughingly say now, if I can't figure out my own career goals, I certainly can't figure out yours, especially based on a one-page resume or 1 or 2 pages.
Well, it also goes to your, if you don't do the research, right, it goes to your researching skills. It goes to the attention to detail part. It goes to the go-getter part that you see on some of the job descriptions that are written. And that if you can't do that basic part, if you haven't done that research, how, as a recruiter, right, my hiring manager is trusting that I am doing the work at looking at the resumes, screening candidates, and then sending the candidates and the skill sets over to them for them to review, right? So how can I trust that you actually know how to research? How can I trust that you actually know how to ask for help? Ask for help from I've already done the foundational part. I just need help with this part. How do I know? How can I trust that you're going to do that if you don't do that at the preliminary stage of this?
You have a couple comments just here from Darwin, a lot of 100% on what you're saying. And then it's life building. And in order to achieve a sustainable growth, you need to know your weaknesses. And then Patience was saying, you can't afford, it was to your points about being offended when somebody's trying to give you feedback. Like, I can't afford, like, being offended is a luxury I can't afford, is what she said there. So,
no, that's big fix. Absolutely. I also want to go back to the comment about how are you using Instagram. So I don't think it's, there are some people that are not intentionally going on Instagram to find a job. Because that's not what Instagram is for. But there have been times when, like, I saw when you and I work for the same company, I saw an engineer on a page. If y'all haven't followed Salary Transparency Street on Instagram, please follow Hannah and her husband because they're amazing. Hannah interviewed an engineer, and the engineer is from Philly, and I'm from Camden, New Jersey, so that's right across the bridge from each other. So that was a connection point for me. And so engineer, I forgot what company it was at the time, but it was in banking. And I was recruiting engineers at the time. And I was like, oh, it would be cool if I could recruit this engineer. And so I just commented and I said, hey, I work for this big tech company. I'm recruiting for engineers right now. I would love to have a conversation with this person. I just don't know their Instagram. So I reached out to them when Salary Transparency Street sent me their Instagram. I went and connected with that candidate, and they eventually became my candidate. And so I was able to connect them with other recruiters and all of that at the company. So that's how I've used Instagram and other social media platforms in the past to find ideal talent.
Yeah, that also reminds me of just how do you even grow on Instagram, is kind of joining those things that you're interested in and then participating in conversations. Surprise, surprise, networking involves conversations on all the platforms. But I could see even being, if you're into some sort of tech or something, following those different accounts. And you never know when a hiring manager is actually participating in the conversation about new tech that just came out, and all of a sudden you've established yourself as an expert just by participating in a conversation or a Facebook group or whatever that might look like. There's so many options to connect, or outside of the job search. I know Glenn and I, who we've done mentorship before, we actually bonded over fitness, not over even mentorship or anything like that. So it's always kind of looking for those similar things that you do with one another, and then maybe the profession comes up. And thinking about improv classes. I'm in a room with people and I don't actually know what they do in their day job. So sometimes we will add ourselves to social media later. I'm like, wait, you're a director for what and what? But you don't know who you're in the room with when you're just going about life, right? Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. So I guess I know you seem like you're one of those people that just naturally connects and always has, but what made you want to start connecting online with people or through, I guess it's kind of what got you started? I hear a lot of people say that they are scared to get started with networking. They don't know what to say. They don't know how to do it. They don't know what to talk about. And I like to kind of break it down as to what is that first step that someone can take if they're wanting to, but don't know where to go, or maybe speak to the fear factor on it if you would like to do that.
Yeah, so I wrote templates for this. This is why I wrote these templates because I say all of this with the understanding that at some point I also did not know how to network. Mm-hmm. I also did not know where to start. I also probably asked a little too much of some of the attorneys that I was asking to help with, like, where do I go? What do I look for and all of that? I was probably asking too much of them as well. And so I had to start taking accountability for the parts that I might have been missing or what I was doing incorrectly. And so I wrote a DM template. I'm trying to find the link now. I wrote a DM template specifically to help people understand how to start a LinkedIn message. How to start a LinkedIn message or just a message in general when you've never met the person, right? It is extremely weird. Trust me, it's extremely weird to hop in somebody's DM and go, "Hey, Jacqueline, my name is Chenae Erkerd, and I'm looking for this job, and I'm hoping that you can help me in some way, and I don't even know what to say or where to start." It's extremely weird. I get it. And so I said, okay. I got an email from a client one time, and the email was, I want to send this message, but I don't know what to say. And I said, say this. And I said, say these words. When I wrote what to say, I said, oh, that's a template. And I literally copied what I wrote for that person and just transitioned it into a template and just put it on my LinkedIn and posted it for the world to have. And so when I did that, I got a whole bunch of messages like, oh my gosh, this really helped. I started getting responses almost immediately. And I said, yeah, it's just because I think us as recruiters, we don't understand that candidates, a regular candidate and a recruiting candidate, two different things. Us as candidates, two different things versus a person who is not necessarily in HR or recruiting. I started to understand, maybe I'm getting these messages because people don't know what to say or where to start. Yeah. So how can I help the people who don't know what to say or where to start? And so that's when I started writing my templates, because I was like, I think people think that they are doing a good job at this and they are not. I said, so how can I say you're not doing a good job at this without being canceled? So I was like, how can I say this in a nice way? Because if I just come out and say you suck at networking, like, who wants to hear that, right? So I was like, okay, how can I help the greater public understand what we want to hear as the recipients of your message? So I literally wrote, hi, my name is Chenae Erkerd. I am a recruiter. I understand. I see that you work for this company. I applied to rec number 123456. I've been researching this company for a long time, and I love what the company stands for, core values and all of that stuff. But I also understand you may not be the person who may be assigned to this role. And if you're not, I apologize. Do you mind sending my LinkedIn profile link over to the person who is over this position? If you are, do you mind just taking a quick look at my application? I've already applied to determine if I'm an ideal fit. I'm just hoping to be reviewed and hopefully have the opportunity to talk to someone soon. That's Chenae.
I love that, because it's not a lot of fluff or trying to win them over. Sometimes I will get a massive dissertation in my messages on on all the things they've done. And I'm like, but I'm not a hiring manager, or I don't know what job breaks you're after, or where to find that person. But I do love that advice of, you may not be that right person. Can you help me find that right person?
That's exactly right.
And then putting the link to the job rec, I always say to do that if you're reaching out to anyone about a job, so that they can find it easily and see who has it, who's the hiring manager, who is the recruiter, any of those pieces.
And for those of you on LinkedIn, I put my template link in the chat for you all to take advantage of. Every single template that I wrote 30 templates. I'm not done. I actually have a template idea in my phone that I haven't written yet. But the idea of this is, and I also, when I wrote the templates, I wrote this with the understanding that many people also can't afford career coaches. Many people can't afford to book time with me. And so I was like, how can I make this as affordable as possible, where people are self-pacing themselves and where they feel like they have the voice of the career coach, but to also feel like I am getting what I'm paying for, right? I can't just produce something that's not working, or I can't produce something that it's giving you what you're looking for. And so what I did was I said, if people purchase this $11 template or this $150 packet, I need to be able to give an incentive with it, so that people feel, because y'all have too much of the influencers and the content creators coming after y'all money. And I was like, I don't want to be another one of those people. And so I said, for any person who gets my template packet, every single time I learn something new, or any individual template, every time I learn something new, I want to be able to update the template. And if I update it, you will always get that most updated part of the template for free. If it's a bundle, you get the most updated bundle. If it's a template, an individualized template, if I update that individualized template, you get the update to that template specifically. And so I wanted to make sure that I'm saying, okay, if I'm getting opinions from different recruiters, because this is just my opinion, if I'm getting opinions from different recruiters, or I'm doing my own research, I need to be able to produce something that helps people start, because you're right, a lot of people do not know how to start.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you do that, and the commitment to making sure it's a value add. And even when I'm doing digital courses, I'm like, no, I need it to be evergreen, where if something changes, I go and update it and make sure people have that right information for what changes. Even if it's on LinkedIn, the algorithm's constantly shifting, and what's boosted and what's not, which is why I still go back to interact on people's posts, be curious, and ask questions. And I often will just celebrate when somebody has a brand. Like I always say, if you want to grow your network, find people who just got hired and are doing that celebration post, because they're happy, and happy people accept people into their networks. And then all you have to say is, I just want to follow your career progression, see what happens with such and such company. And I don't think people turn down the connection request if you just do something as simple as that. And
but here's what you can also do, though. Every single time y'all see whoever's on LinkedIn, every single time you see a post from someone who just got a job, go immediately to where they got that job and follow the page. If you see, like, you can start right now. Here's a starting point. Free tip. Here's a starting point. You can literally go to my LinkedIn, go down to my recommendation section, and every single person who wrote me a recommendation, see where they work. And if you can tell that they work at a company that you will possibly want to work for, go follow the page, so you never miss an update and you never miss a job opportunity.
Yeah. And also, if people don't know, there's the little bell on profiles that you can click to make sure you always see a post by someone. So if there's a target company, target recruiter that you're starting to build a relationship with, and kind of, I would say, try and get to the friend zone a little, if you can, just by, I connect with a lot of people just because they're funny, and I love funny people. So I was like, okay, you totally got me laughing, so we have to connect so you can give me the laugh so that I can laugh again in the future. But it's just fun. I did see somebody said the link didn't post correctly.
Yeah, I was just responding to Christy. If you have the link never posts correctly when I put it in the chat, in any chat. Okay. So you have to just copy and paste the link into your URL.
All right, great. Perfect. How much time do you spend on networking at this point? I know you have people probably come to you all the time because you've spent a lot of time. Are you an active networker, or do you reap the rewards of past efforts to where, I didn't finish that.
Networking stops for me. Networking never stops. I don't at this point, I do it so much as a recruiter, I don't know how to turn it off. Which is interesting. Like and my husband can tell you, him and I could be on our way to dinner and I'll look at a sign and I'll go, oh, I've never heard of that company. I'll pull out my phone. I'll go right to LinkedIn. I'll go, how many people work for this company? Or what type of industry is this company? And if I see a job, I'll send it to somebody and I'll go, hey, I saw this company I didn't know existed. Feel free to reach out to anyone or see, I would explore this opportunity because how many other people don't know that this company exists. So I do networking quite a bit, especially because now I'm a TEDx curator. And so I have to find sponsorships and I have to talk to people and I have to constantly work on my networking skills all the time. That never stops.
I love that. Yeah, and then we are I try to keep this right down 30 minutes and we're already over that because I could talk to you all day long. So do you have any last thoughts?
I was expecting an hour.
Then we'll just keep going. I actually was curious about the cautionary tales. I know we talked about just reaching out cold and saying, hey, find a job for me. But are there other things that you're seeing anybody doing that might be hurting in the job search that they don't know about or don't realize?
Yes. Oh my gosh. So I got chewed up today on TikTok for this. But I'm going to say it anyway because I'm going to stand 10 toes down because I said what I said. So I want to start with this. There is nothing wrong with using ChatGPT. Nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong with using ChatGPT. There is nothing wrong with using Copilot. There is nothing wrong with using Claude AI, Panda AI, and all the AIs in the world. There is nothing wrong with it. Here is where I find an issue. It's so my law professor, shout out to Professor April Dawson, my law professor, she wrote a book called Artificial Intelligence and Academic Integrity because they found that, I think they did a study and they found that young attorneys started to use like ChatGPT to write their case briefs. In the courtroom, that's a problem. Like that is a huge problem, right? Mm-hmm. And so I've sat in events where attorneys have actually said that their paralegals have also done the same thing. And literally they'll ask them about something in the brief and they can't speak to it. So then the question then becomes, I'm supposed to take this in front of a judge? You can't even speak to this, which means that AI did this for you. I don't mind when people use AI platforms as an assistant. The problem is when it's a substitution. The problem is when people start using it to do their work and then you get in your interviews and you can't speak to what the interview questions that the interviewers are asking you. That all of these ads that say they'll never know. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. We know. I can tell on resumes. I can tell in interviews. I can tell 100%. And the thing is, again, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just that if you had an AI platform or if you had a resume writing service, do your resume. It has to make sense. There are many times where I've looked at AI generated resumes that did not make sense. And the thing is, the AI is generating content for you in a way that you don't even speak. Yes. I can tell you don't talk like that. I'm talking to you and you don't talk that way. Right. So I can tell that something did it for you. Now, again, you pay resume writers. ChatGPT is free. That's fine. I always tell people if you're going to use ChatGPT to help you flesh out something, that's different because if it's fleshing something out for you, that means you built the foundation. All I'm asking is that people build the foundation themselves and then allow ChatGPT or any other AI platform that you're using to help you flesh it out or help you make it concise or help you cut it down or or help you say it a different type of way. That's different versus it just doing it for you. And then you get into your screenings and your interviews and you can't actually speak to it. I've screened so many different people that I'll go, I can tell they ain't write this resume now because I'm talking to you and you clearly cannot speak to what's on this resume. I got chewed up today on TikTok for saying that. But it's the honest to God truth. I want you all to make sure that you are following, Darwin said, the most basic instructions. The most basic instructions. And those instructions are, if you're a subject matter expert in what you do, all you need ChatGPT to help you with is to clean it up. But ChatGPT or any AI assistant shouldn't be doing your work for you. Because then at that point, you're proving that you don't need to be there. You're proving that the AI system can do your job. So why pay you when they could just use the AI system for free?
I love that. There's a story, I don't know if it's anecdote or true, where some company put in the job description, if you're an AI bot, put the word banana in this blank, and it did. But I don't know if that's true or not. It's very clever. And it just reminds me, as I would do things where I'm like, I would take the job description and I would take my resume and I was like, hey, form a cover letter for me. Let's see what you come up with. And then I would read the cover letter and I was like, I don't know where you came up with that, where this experience from this matches this. So always proofread anything. AI gives you anything, always, especially when it's talking about your expertise and your name's on the line. So
understood. I mean, it's hard for me to see a lot of people who are longing for positions, and I screen them. A lot of people who are longing for positions, it's just the lack of preparation. It's literally the lack of preparation, and that preparation comes from you getting with people who know what they're doing. You got to get with people who just know what they're doing and do your research.
Such great points. You keep just dropping these like nuggets of absolute gold for our audience here. And
the funny thing is, Jacqueline, I don't think it's gold. I just think it's common sense. It's just common sense. Let's keep it a buck. If there are many things that you can do on ChatGPT that you do not have to pay any of us to do for you, right? That would be, you can actually generate your own resume template on ChatGPT. Here's the thing though, is ChatGPT going to tell you exactly what to put in each bullet? Is it going to tell you? The thing is, it may, if you know how to prompt it.
Right.
So the thing is, if you know how to prompt it, cool. But in order for you to know how to prompt it, you got to talk to a person. A person has to teach you how to prompt it. Or you have to do some research in order to prompt it. Either way, you got to do work yourself at some point to even work ChatGPT. So if you've done all the foundational work, why would you let an AI bot do work for you and show you up, opposed to you being able to go on the job and prove that you can actually do it and not get caught in the lie that you actually don't know how to do it, but yet you make it $200,000 a year? How embarrassing is that?
Yeah. I had a hiring manager that we just did a one-off little call to get to know each other and networking, actually. And she was saying how frustrating it is when a candidate gets to her in an interview and then all of a sudden they can't talk at all to what the job entails, and clearly used AI, and the frustration on both sides with that. Seeing a lot of comments. It's like I'm so ADHD at times, but where I'm trying to keep up with some of these. Yeah. All right. Let's see. We covered a lot of things on just how to reach out, how to get noticed. I can stress again, please interact on people's posts. I'm trying to see if there are any questions that are here in chat that would be.
So here's a good example.
Sure.
Hey, Fatima, Kimberly, Patience, and Masak. Masak is because what's up, Masak? Masak and I went to college together, so Masak is by default. But Fatima, Kimberly, Patience are the three people that I've never met. And Bianca is another one that I've never met in person, but I see them all the time, like all the time. So if I can lend a hand in some way, then I'm going to do that, right? Bianca's one of my testimonials. So if and Bianca, I had to tell her to chill before she went to go look for her job. I had to kind of like, we had to understand, like, put whatever into perspective and what's priority right now and what's not. But she trusted my advice, right? She didn't take offense to it. At least I don't think she did. She didn't take offense to it. She just trusted my advice. And from that, I went, oh, okay. So I can actually say certain things to her without her taking it a kind of way, which means I can be vulnerable and honest with her on how this job market actually works and how HR professionals and recruiters actually work. And so Kimberly, I believe, was another testimonial of mine. Still waiting for Patience and Fatima to get their breakthrough if they have not gotten their breakthrough, right? But the idea is, I've seen these women consistently for years. And the thing is, like, I think Bianca and I text at some point. We actually text off and on sometimes. And so at this, you get to a place where once you start seeing the same people all the time, you just it becomes a no-brainer. That's how you stand out. But I will say, I will couple that with, those women came prepared. Those women did not come like, Chenae, I need a job tomorrow. I need a job now. What can you do for me? Nothing. Because you're too urgent. I can't do nothing right now, not in the moment.
That's why it's so important when we talk about network before you need it. Because when you have lost the job, there is, like, I think about that argument as like, oh, should I not use the green banner because I look desperate? And I'm just like, maybe you are, but that also informs how you reach out. I really need them to respond. And there is a nervousness and urgency that is actually, you can read it and see it. And it's even hard to be the recipient sometimes because I'm a helper. And it's just like, I want to be able to fix this for people and I can't. It's just the reality of what it is. Yeah. And then you did have one, you said something that reminded me of a conversation that happened in one of the mentorship calls that you were part of, is the people have mentioned before that they get nervous about applying too frequently for a company, or how many times is too much before I seem annoying. And there's the, how do I know I'm not being annoying to the recruiter if they are responding to me? So I would love to hear your perspective on that as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to compare and contrast Duke and Microsoft. Microsoft was, when I would see the same type of candidate, so there was a resume that I saw one time where, and I can say this just because it's not giving out PII. There was a resume that I saw that had a picture of someone's parent in the hospital. And the picture of the parent in the hospital, it was like, the caption of the picture was like, please help me take care of my parent. I'm not going to say gender, just please help me take care of my parent. And I was like, this is not a good idea in any way. And I would see this person's resume all the time. And my former colleagues said the same thing. They would see this person's resume all the time. When I would see the same type of resume, there's a few things I would understand, especially if it was like a software engineer to or a senior software engineer, because at a certain point, the software engineer profession wasn't niche anymore. There were more people starting to major in political science and statistics and math and IT and cybersecurity and all the things. So because more people started to do it, it wasn't as niche as it used to be. So I started to understand it. The problem with that was, I personally didn't see anything wrong with people applying to Microsoft all the time, because we all knew that Microsoft, the idea was that it was harder to get into Microsoft than it was to get into Harvard. And I could see how so many candidates would constantly apply all the time just to get noticed, because there were so many people in the pool who would apply to one specific role. Mm-hmm. So I always encourage people, with Microsoft specifically, I encourage people to apply as much as they needed to, because they were competing with hundreds and thousands of people, all around the world, right? This wasn't just the United States. So because we were dealing with candidates if they were going to relocate internationally and come into the United States, and we could do this sponsorship and all of that, then that was a viable candidate. So I encourage people to apply as much as they needed to, just because of the nature of the company itself and how the volume of the candidates that we received. Then you have Duke University Health System, where I would see some of the same candidates, and the funny thing is, I would send some of the same candidates over. Of course, I would look at all of them, but I would send some of the same candidates over quite a bit. And some of the hiring managers would go, I keep seeing the same candidates that you're sending over. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's because they want to work here. and yeah, like they're applying here for a reason. They want to work here. So then I started paying more, like I was paying attention, but I started to see the trend and pay a little bit closer attention as to why they may think that was a red flag. In healthcare, one of the things that I found was that I would give candidates advice on their resume. And I would say, this is what your resume looks like. This is a red flag. You should probably not go back as far in terms of your skill set. You should probably only go to the most recent experience. It does not mean you don't have the granular amount of experience. It's just that the roles you're applying to, the positions in the early 90s don't matter, because the roles you're applying to don't even require that much experience anyway. So there have been times when I would give some of this feedback and the candidate wouldn't take it and would apply anyway. That's annoying. When someone is taking their time to give you feedback on your resume and the candidate just disregards it, at a certain point, I would look at the name. I would still send them over because that's still my job and they still meet the minimum qualifications. But I would think the hiring manager is not going to want to look at you because you're not even taking the feedback from the resume to actually look like a more viable candidate. So how does the hiring manager know that you're going to take their leadership seriously? How do they know you're going to be able to take constructive feedback? So there were a lot of things that are tested, a lot of things that are tested in the early stages of recruiting and hopefully interviewing, ultimately hire, that people miss. And so that's the difference from applying a lot in the different industry or in company and comparing, contrasting, where at a big tech company, I would encourage people to apply a lot because you're competing with millions of people. In a big health type of thing, I would suggest that people take the feedback, and of course, big tech too, suggest that people pay a little bit close attention and take the feedback from what their resume may say as to why they may not be getting a position, because realistically, you're not going to get as much of a candidate count or volume in big health as you will get in big tech. So I would just suggest that it depends on the industry and it depends on the company. That's my long answer as to it just depends.
It probably also depends on the size of the company too. Like if it's Microsoft used to have 12,000 jobs that open at any given point, and like the chances were just statistically better to get called for something as opposed to now. One of the things that came to mind when you talked about shaving off, say, maybe jobs in the 90s, is a lot of people are in this job market today talking about, I keep being told I'm overqualified. I don't know what to do because I am, but I'm desperate. I need a job. So what are your thoughts on the overqualification and people apply, like directors applying for senior roles because you need a job, pay bills?
Yeah. I'm going to give two sides. On one side, I understand why a hiring team may say, this person is overqualified. We're going to pass because we're going to be wasting their time. And part of that comes from, let's be real, hiring teams don't want to be in recruiting. It takes too long. It takes too long to screen. We have to screen first, and interview, and then ultimately debrief, decide to hire, right? All that entire process is making sure that we are following compliance, policies, standards, and procedures as it relates to making sure that every single candidate is treated fairly. That's why it may take so long. So in that case, I understand why a hiring team may say, this person is overqualified. I don't want to spend time interviewing a person who's overqualified, because there is a good chance that they are using this position to transition into the company, to then go network and pivot somewhere else. And I am back into recruiting in 6 months to a year. From a hiring manager's perspective, they have to do recruiting and their day-to-day. So they have to do double work, which is why they don't want to stay in recruiting long. So from this side, I understand why it may be hard to balance the two. On the other hand, a candidate needs a job and the position's open. Mm-hmm. So if a candidate needs a job and the position is open, there is a good chance that if they are applying to a role that is beneath their level, it's probably because they're having a hard time getting a job at their level. So it's probably humbling for them to even apply to a role that may be a step below. Mm-hmm. So then the question then becomes, well, how do you come to a consensus? Here's where the recruiters come in. Mm-hmm. It is our job to go to the hiring team and say, well, they applied to this job for a reason. We want to make sure we are identifying the most qualified candidates. We can't look at the fact that they are overqualified simply because you assume that they are going to use this job to get their, I hate this phrase, but I'm going to say, get their foot in the door and then transition over into another position. I then have to sometimes go to the hiring manager and say, weren't you overqualified for a role at some point and needed a job? Like, I have to actually have those candid conversations with them, because sometimes I think it's when you're a hiring manager, you can forget like when you needed a job. so I think it's up to the recruiters to be your advocate when you're not there. It's also, but it's also up to the recruiter to understand when the hiring team is just not open to hiring a candidate who is overqualified, because they absolutely know that this person is not going to stay because they've done it before. So it's just kind of depends.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know it's a point of frustration for a lot of people, but that is also the reality of the job market that's happening right now too, is people trying to pivot or move into something, to find something. But it reminded me of trying to pivot into something new, maybe a slightly different industry or a type of role that's, I kind of think of, if I wanted to, like, if I took all this and said, I want to be a recruiter all of a sudden, and like, I've talked to enough recruiters that I could probably at least talk language, even though I've never actually seen an ATS or any of the things that happen with that. But I might be overqualified in one area, like PMing, and still interested in just flipping into something else. And are you seeing people successfully pivot into things right now, or are they getting kind of swallowed by those that are truly qualified for the roles? It used to be that a lot more chances were given, it seems, than what my thoughts or what I'm seeing. So.
Yeah, no, I think people are pivoting just fine. I recently, maybe about a month ago, I got a testimonial from a young lady who had been trying to pivot as a sales engineer into sales engineering for some time, and she finally got a sales engineer associate role. So people are pivoting. It's just that the pivoters it may take a little bit more time, just because there's a different. We all know you have transferable skills versus direct experience. Mm-hmm. And there's a good chance that the hiring manager is going to choose the direct experience over the transferable skills. So it just may take a little bit more time. David Hooker actually made a good point. He said for that hiring manager who having to do 2 jobs for the recruitment side and their day-to-day seems like a bigger issue with the amount of responsibilities they have or how much time they have to get those responsibilities completed. Here's the thing. As someone who is on this side of the hiring process, the hiring manager, it may not necessarily be a duty specifically every single day. The hiring manager is overseeing a team already. Mm-hmm. So if the team is trying to come to the hiring manager for issues or advice or next steps or help in some way that is part of their day-to-day, If something is on fire at work, that is part of their day-to-day. If stuff gets escalated and it's a serious issue, that is part of their day-to-day. It may not necessarily be like if I'll use an engineering manager as an example. An engineering manager may not be coding every day like the software engineers actually are. They may be doing code reviewing the software engineers' code who report to them. But what if something happens where there's a code that's off and there is a bug in the code that needs to be fixed, and now it's all hands because this is an important thing that needs to be fixed because now the whole thing is down. So at that point, I don't have time to be in recruiting because this is more important. And so as a recruiter, I have to understand that. So there is way more than just a regular having to go from your day to day.
I always think about teams that I was on when we were hiring, and it's like there is a hole there, that pain points that are happening that the hiring manager is usually filling in for somebody else on the team is. And they're like, please hire somebody as quick as possible. But then the day-to-day is what it is. It takes up a lot of time. Yeah, so we are getting a little bit closer to that hour. Any parting thoughts that you'd like to leave our audience with as far as encouragement, or you're a great encourager. That's why I'm thinking of asking specifically. Let's pick the people up that pick us all up when we're in those moments of, will anything ever happen in a positive way?
So before I answered the encouragement question, Kimberly asked, what do you think about the candidate asking for the hiring manager a behavioral-based question during an job interview? Don't do that. Don't do that. There's a different, like, I wouldn't ask a behavioral-based question. I would ask a direct question, not behavioral-based, because they're actually not the ones that need to convince you that they need the job. So I wouldn't ask them a behavioral-based question. If you've done that and that works, cool. I just wouldn't do that. Fatima said, could you look at overqualified candidates as a way to get promoted sooner or fill a more senior role that may be open later? Yes, which is where the advocacy comes from. Because the idea is it's up to the recruiter to what we call repurposing the talent. There go Jordan. Hey, Jordan. It's up to the recruiter to go what we are calling repurposing the talent. Jordan, if you weren't here earlier, I used you and Chris as an example. So yeah, I would think that that's an avenue, but you got to get with a recruiter who believes that that's their job. Parting words would be, I always say when I do my own lives, I always say that the job market is a beast, but so are you. You are a beast in your own right. Don't let this job market fool y'all into thinking that you are not good at what you do. A job market is saturated. It doesn't mean that you are not qualified in what you're doing. It just means that the job market itself is saturated, and this may be a bad time, right? My husband used to always tell me when I was looking for a job, he used to always say, babe, it's about time. I used to hate hearing that. I couldn't stand it, but I get it now. I like the job market is about finding the right job at the right time. And while I understand that people got bills to pay, so do I. You also don't want to just accept any job that is tearing your mental health apart. Mm-hmm. Right? So you don't want to put yourself in such a space that you are sacrificing your peace for a position. Write that down. You don't sacrifice your peace for a position. Don't do that. Because what happens when the company decides that position is no longer needed? Now you've lost your peace. Mm-hmm. So I would say my parting words of encouragement would be that every single person under the sound of my voice has power. You just have to decide on how you're going to use your power. Mm-hmm. All of you in this virtual room have the ability to overcome. It's all in timing, and it's all in how you see it. And while that may not help every single person that is hearing me, it's literally, you are talking to people who recently lost their jobs. 2 people right here who recently lost their jobs from a company who most people would think is a dream company. Jacqueline and I didn't we didn't think we were the best at what we do. right? Just because we lost our job doesn't necessarily mean that we are not the best at what we do. Everybody should think that they are the best at what they do. Mm-hmm. It's just a matter of finding the company who values who you are and values what you do and will pay you for what you do. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think it's we have to stop looking at this find a job by any means necessary, and it's to find the right job so that we can take care of our family, find financial freedom, but to also have and be in a space where people respect what we do.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I had goosebumps while you're talking because I have been so close to imposter syndrome in my life, and I don't know what, just lack of self-confidence. And it really, I've been on a journey on finding that and believing truly that I matter. And I just want to echo, everybody here matters. And I'll just even add, if anybody needs specific prayer or anything like that, feel free to DM me. I have an open prayer call even on Fridays at noon. I can put the link in chat after the broadcast, so if anybody wants to join that. I keep saying I want all of us on the prayer call to find jobs faster, so we can just be like, see, God's awesome. But thank you for being here so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I've been so excited all week, and I was, I'm like, I can't even sit still because it's, I just enjoy being in your presence, and I'm glad we stumbled across each other in our corners of the internet.
So let me tell y'all a quick story before we leave. So right before Jacqueline and I worked together, I was in Seattle, and I actually met Jacqueline in person, and I was having a tough time. Like this day was just tough. And Jacqueline pulled me aside and prayed for me right in the middle of the office. So when she says pray, that's exactly what she means. She took me by my hand. We went kind of in the corner near the bathroom, and we stood. While it was still in the corner, it was still very much in the middle of the hallway because people were walking by us. And so literally, if y'all need prayer, she means it. If y'all need prayer, I mean it. Like this is a community, right? It's the company can let you go, but if the community cancel you, then you out of luck. So just know that you are supported in more ways than you can imagine.
Yeah. Yes. And pick yourself up for one more day. I know I've literally had to talk people off the ledge in this economy, but you matter, you're valuable, you're loved, and I mean that. So I probably should end this because I'll keep you here all evening, and then well, I can't. I have my improv class tonight, so going into my next level of wackiness. Speaking of doing the hard things, the hard, scary things. But thank you, everyone, for being here, and thank you for participating in the chat too. That's been such a wonderful element of this particular live. It's one of the most active I've had, so it's super exciting. Yeah. And tomorrow I have Phil Davis, who is going to come and talk to us. He's a delightful person too. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good one, everybody.
You too. All right, bye.